Hey guys, it's Tasty Tacos here. We're about a week and a half into the Runes of Aldur League, so I thought it would be a good time to take you through how far I've progressed with the Lightning Spear Tactician build, and also a few tips and tricks as to how you can potentially improve your build, in particular on the single target, which I think has been really improved on this league. So as opposed to last league where I started playing grenades, this league I league started Twisters, which is a very popular meta league starter. And conveniently it also uses a spear, which means I would have set my tree up exactly in the right way, ready to transition into Lightning Spear. And the league start went very well. I made it through the campaign fairly quickly. I'm never usually the fastest at these things, but quickly by my standards anyway. Made my way up to maps and then completed my third ascendancy playing Twisters. And at that point it was time to respec into Lightning Spear Tactician. Now at this point I had really no gear whatsoever. The only thing that I had was an Essence and Desecrated crafted spear, which I got fairly lucky on an Exalt Slam to give it a little bit of extra physical damage. But other than that it was rare trash on everything else and a rare Scepter. Nevertheless, the build was feeling really good. I had really good frenzy charge generation, the damage felt great with the armor explosions popping off and everything getting pinned. My Trinity was stacking up very well in the way that I wanted it to, and the Eternal Rage Berserk combo obviously working exactly as it should. But there was a small problem, of course, and that is the single target damage, especially in this early stage. Although Explosive Spear, which we use in the late game version of the build, can do a massive amount of damage, unfortunately in the early game it really struggles, mainly due to the fact that you can only really place 1 to 2 lodge spears at a time. This basically halves the amount of damage that you have in each detonation. And on top of that, that damage isn't really even guaranteed because there's a fair chance that the boss is just going to run away. So instead I've leaned into a different approach, which is using Primal Strikes. Primal Strikes is a 3-hit spear attack, which on the last attack, if the enemy is shocked, will release a massive stampede of spirit animals which trample the enemy with elemental damage. And the main benefit to playing this with Lightning Spear is that the payoff mechanic in Primal Strikes is of course that they need to be shocked. But Lightning Spear itself has a higher chance to shock enemies. So you just shock the enemy with your Lightning Spear, and then in a 1-2 punch you can Primal Strike them and stampede them with the spirit animals. But there's a big secondary effect to Primal Strikes which really can't be understated, and that's the exposure. Exposure is a mechanic that by default gives enemies 20% reduced resistances, and that can go below 0, so that's pretty much 20% more damage every time. But Primal Strikes has this extra line of text that says exposure reduces resistances by 50%, which is absolutely massive. It's a 50% more damage on anything that you're doing to them. This exposure effect is taken down a bit on rare and unique enemies, but we can re-stack it up because we actually have access to quite a lot of increased exposure effect, both from the tree and then from our items. Firstly, right next to Eroding Chains, there's a very good set of exposure nodes. Then on top of that, there's a Helmet Socketable, which gives you 25% increased effective exposure. And there's also a modifier on the Timeless Jewel that you get from Abyss that gives you another 25% increased effective exposure. So now we're causing the enemy to be exposed to elemental damage by about 45%, which is 45% more damage taken. And then we're increasing their damage taken by about 40% from the shock. And then on top of that, something that I noticed is that many of the enemies are becoming ignited, which is another elemental ailment that we can use to stack the Yoke of Suffering, which says enemies take 20% increased elemental damage for every elemental ailment on them. We know they're shocked, and there's a fairly decent chance they're going to be ignited. That means with all these things taken together, these enemies are going to be taking at least double of the damage they usually would. And these things aren't really a trade-off either, because we're already pathing to all the places that are going to give us extra exposure effect and extra shock effect, and we don't really need an amulet because all of our spirit is coming from our scepter. So basically that damage is for free. Now the next thing that's going to happen with the single target is that I'm going to work on getting the Trinity stacked. I think the big unlock here is going to be using the Sacred Flame, enabling us to deal both lightning and fire damage with the Primal Strikes, and then using something like Stormlance to get the cold damage, stacking up that Trinity to 300 stack. But at least in this version of the build, I wanted to stay away from expensive items and focus on the core mechanics enabling the build. So if you do want to play this, it will probably cost you 5 to 10 divines or less, even depending on what kinds of items you have now and what you need to spend on, and you can see the updated build guide on my Mobalytics. And lastly, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel, and also those of you who have been playing the build. I've been seeing a lot of you up on PoE Ninja, and many of you doing your own things, most of you probably further ahead than I am in the league. So really well done, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments about the build, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Anyway, that's it from me here. Take care guys, have a great league, and I'll see you next time.